Welcome, everyone. We are so happy today to have Priyanka Murthy on from Access 79. I found Access 79 about a year and a half ago. As you know, I'm like a really big jewelry person. I love to invest in jewelry. And I've just been following along because it's such an interesting model that she's created. She's an attorney by trade, but I'll let her tell your story, or I'll let you tell your own story, Priyanka. So thank you for being on Wealth Edit Wednesday. And we're just so grateful to hear your story today.
Same. I feel like this is going to be fun, just like you said, like a wine or, well, for me, I have a coffee, like a conversation. It's a little too early for me to drink, not too early. So yeah, I'm an attorney by profession, by education profession. I practice federal litigation. I still am a practicing lawyer. But I went to law school thinking. I come from a culture where, like advanced degree is just a requirement. So I chose law because I figured I can have a profession and then still go into business, which is what I ultimately wanted to do going into law school. But then I think I fell into this, what I call the gold star trap, which is you do really well at something, so you keep going further and further and further, and then before you know it, you're like it. So that's how I kind of felt. I really loved the law. I didn't enjoy the practice of law as much as I loved the actual, like the sort of intellectual rigors of the law. Parallel to that, my parents are typical immigrant small business owners. They came to the US on a business visa. They were required to basically have to establish a business and make it work and employ people. If they couldn't do that, we wouldn't be able to stay in the country. So they started 4 businesses, 3 failed. And one of them, a diamond, like a wholesale jewelry business, is what put me and my sister through college, me through law school. So I grew up seeing entrepreneurship. And even in law school and after law school as a lawyer, I would help my parents with their business. And as I was helping them, I started realizing how everything was getting so digital and technology was really, really disrupting so many different industries. But the jewelry industry was so archaic on so many different levels. From the thing that interested me the most was the sales side of it, which is I am my own client, my Access 79 client, where I'm a older millennial. I am digitally savvy. I buy everything from toilet paper to like my kids' shoes online. But jewelry, somehow I always kind of, even being in the industry, I felt like the experience online wasn't really speaking to me. But I never wanted to set foot in a jewelry store. I found them to be very stuffy. I found them to be kind of uncurated, very high pressure. I need some time to think about things, especially when it comes to, I love fashion. I like, caring about how I look. And I always felt very pressured to ask someone to open a showcase. And this is even being in the jewelry industry. So that's when I started thinking about this idea of how can we get the experience. People are buying jewelry, people are jewelry lovers, but what's preventing them from buying the jewelry is really the experience. And then I started doing some research because that's who I am. And I found out that about the fastest category of growth in the jewelry industry is actually the woman who purchases for herself. However, the experience of actually buying jewelry is terrible. What I described to you, I kind of had the data to support my hypothesis. So that's where Access 79 was born. It's a try before you buy service for fine jewelry. What our clients do is they come to our website, they take a style quiz. Based on the style quiz, our technology curates. Today it's 9 pieces. It's going to be more later on. 9 pieces that is pretty, we've gotten it right a lot, is what I've heard from our clients. And then they can pick the 3 that they'd like. They pay a deposit to receive the fine jewelry in their home. They have 7 days to try. And then they keep whichever piece they love. We deduct the deposit and they send back the rest. We take care of all the shipping, everything. It is my way of shopping. I have like a shopping sort of like a routine. I do it around 11:30 when the whole house is quiet. My husband is sleeping, my kid is sleeping, the dog is sleeping, and I like put on the TV. I put the laptop on my lap, and I have maybe a wine or something, and I start doing my shopping. And then if I bought something, I open up my boxes then and try stuff on then, because no one's going to interrupt me and I can do things the way I want to do it. This Access 79 really is the way people like me, women like me shop. And there's a ton of us all over. I bet so many of you are me when it comes to shopping. So that's really where, that's really the business model. And from an entrepreneurship standpoint, for 2.5 years, we really tested this model. I threw a lot of spaghetti at the wall. If people tell you, I have a deep disagreement with the idea of immediately focusing on one thing and just hitting hard. Instead, my sort of philosophy is, when you're working on something, try a few little things really fast and see whether or not what sticks, and then lean into 3 and then narrow it down to 1. So where we are as far as Access 79 when it comes to our growth is, we are narrowed down to 1, where now we know exactly who our client is. We know what kind of jewelry she loves. We know what her pain points are in general, and frankly, what her pain points have been with our service. So very excitingly, we're going through a full kind of rebrand where we're adding to our tech stack. We've increased our team members when it comes to technology. We have some brilliant brand folks on our team who are helping us kind of think through taking the data that we already have and think through the brand. And entrepreneurship, I was talking to the ladies about this, is an up and down sort of, it's just like a roller coaster. But like lately, most mornings I've been waking up thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be great. Kind of, I'm on that kick right now. So yeah, that's Access 79. That's me. I think I feel like I've talked for a while, so I'm just going to.
No, I mean, one of the things that really struck me when I was thinking about your business, and really all of our businesses, if you run them online, I don't think it matters what industry you're in now. One thing that you said on the pre-call that I thought was so interesting is that you're as much a technology company as a jewelry company. And I think if you could kind of like, I think settling into that as an idea and actually like putting some resources behind that is smart these days, because we that's just the world in which we live. And I don't know if you have any additional thoughts about that.
Well, I'll start by telling you I was very insecure about the whole thing, to be perfectly honest, because there's 2 very arguably disparate playbooks when it comes to these kinds of companies. If you are a technology company, the best way to kind of launch and do things is to just sort of try a lot of things, not worry so much about who's going to buy whatever you're selling, whatever, and just grow the tech stack and grow the technology. On the other hand, if you are a brand, a clothing brand, a jewelry brand, the playbook is really kind of get awareness out there, get the buzz, etc. Like I said, I have a law degree. I don't have a business degree. And to some extent, maybe I didn't think I needed one, but where I felt a little bit out of my depth, candidly, is how to really structure this. Was I going to start my business with spending a lot of money on the brand, only to discover that maybe the tech part of what I was doing was just unfeasible or unscalable? Or was I going to really, work on the tech a lot and like put a lot of resources, time, effort into the tech, only to learn that there's no heart behind what I'm doing, and like no one really cares about the jewelry, or no one, so it was I have to tell you, if there's anything that sort of kept me up at night, it was this, like, am I making the right decision? So ultimately, and this is the thing, I am such a focused person. Like my husband and son are like the opposite. They like are brilliant ADDs. At least my husband is. I don't know about my son. He's only 5, but he is definitely kind of unfocused on things, whereas I'm like a hyper-focused person. This was very uncomfortable for me to try a bunch of things when it comes to running the company as a tech company slash sort of jewelry brand. And at any given time during the 2.5 years, our trajectory thus far, I was almost like sort of split personality at any given time in the company, which was deeply uncomfortable for me. But I think in retrospect, it was the right way to do things, because I knew, well, not new, but I had to kind of learn. I had the information to make that decision. Where do we lean in more now? So now we're leaning into one aspect of our tech, and we have narrowed down who our client is, and we're building a brand around what she wants, what she needs. That is very different than all the books and podcasts and things like that out there about building a brand, and also about building a technology company. I'll let you all know how it works out, but that's where I'm at.
Well, I love that. I love that on a personal level, because I'm an attorney turned entrepreneur, changing careers and not ADD. And Lauren and I laugh because we're good partners, because she can have the vision and push. But one of the things that we realize that we have in common is that neither of us are easily embarrassed.
Yeah.
So we're okay trying. But another similarity that I see is what you're doing in the jewelry business is different than what has been traditionally done. And so I feel like Lauren and I are trying to do the same in the wealth management space and getting women to start talking about money. And, there is no playbook for that if you're doing something that is new and different. And so, I think oftentimes we'll talk to people and say the best advice we can give is just to start. I mean, because we're always weighing and deciding, okay, where are we going to put our focus, and then having to go with that until you realize, okay, that's not the right direction. But somebody asked me about that the other day. She's like, are y'all still doing that? And I said, nope, we realized it didn't work. That wasn't that wasn't what our members wanted. And so we just had to shift. But I love that take on it. But then I also love what you're doing within the industry of like really focusing on like, how do women like to shop? How do they want to be treated? How can we present this in an environment that makes it fun and exciting to buy jewelry? And so when you presented this idea, I know you said that your family was in the industry. What were their thoughts when you said, okay, I have this new revolutionary idea?
They're very supportive. Like I said, my parents are entrepreneurs, particularly my dad. He's one of the most sort of visionary kind of risk-takey guy I know. I think maybe he's neck and neck with my husband, but I would put him even higher than my husband when it comes to visionary kind of risk-takey. So my dad, so they're like, yeah, go for it, do it. You know what I mean? The only thing I would say is that my dad immediately gave me some like, are you sure this part's going to work? This part's not going to work. That kind of sort of feedback. Some of it I listened to, and some of it I didn't. And a couple of the things I didn't listen to, he ended up being right. And a couple of things he wasn't right. So in that sense, like, it was nice to have a sounding board, but really they're grandparents, they're like retired. So I barely talk to them about the business. Like, it's funny, like I was featured as one of Forbes' next 1,000, and they learned about it from my in-laws, who they're really good friends with. So like it's one of those things, and I kind of like it that way in a way, because I know it sounds really weird because my parents are not actors, but it's one of those situations where, when the son or daughter of a movie star changes their last name when they go for auditions, they kind of want to just do it themselves. I'm in that same position where I'm like, let me just do this myself. It's okay. Like, I don't need that much sort of guidance from you guys and all that, especially because you're in the latter parts of your life. Don't worry about any of this. Be grandparents. So that's really where I am with my parents. But Emily, I wanted to say something about what you said. It really kind of struck me. Being a lawyer, we are trained a lot to take what is not concrete, like the gray, and put some kind of like measurements around it. That's whether it's transactional law or whether it's litigation, like what I did, we have to get some definition to the undefinable. Okay. The problem when you're a lawyer that you have to solve for as like the personality problem is when you're an entrepreneur, especially when you're doing something that is not done before, is you ultimately will get definition, but you're going to have to get definition by doing it rather than predefining it. I'm so jealous of my husband. He's starting though it's going to be a very innovative healthcare brand, it is still, there is a playbook for it as far as like what his P&L is going to look like, what kinds of, he can model it out. I'm jealous because I can't, I mean, now I can after like, 2.5 years at this, but in the beginning, that was deeply uncomfortable for me to be able to live in a world where I was trained to put definition around the gray. And here I'm desperately trying to put definition around it and I can't, and I just have to do it.
I love that. And I think
we're just here laughing. We put ourselves on mute because we were like, ah.
I know it happens all the time. And, with her being a visionary and me, I'm like, wait, let's go back. Let's talk through that again because I can't see it. And,
or often someone will ask us like, hey, do y'all do this? I'm like, yeah.
And I'm like,
we don't. I'm like, yeah, we do. We can. And I'm like, it's fine. It's all going to work out. And most of the time it does. Our motto internally is like present over perfect.
100%.
You just have to. And I actually think the magic about you, Priyanka, and kind of like, I think our special sauce and financial services. I have a journalism background. She's an attorney. We don't think about it like everybody says to think about it. And I actually think that's how it works because we're like, okay, I know that I hear you on all of that and I will receive some of it, but like also I think this is what's needed, which is really where we generated the idea of the wealth edit. Like the financial services industry was just whiffing hard on talking to women, so like, let's just throw that in the trash, try this. We don't know what it's going to look like. And I mean, especially as a jewelry consumer, like I really love it, but I'm with you on like not wanting that high pressure experience. And, it's almost like you're eliminating the scarcity mindset of the shopping experience where exactly. Like giving them that abundance to choose from and the space to actually make a decision that's personal to them. So as people are looking at jewelry as an investment, as an asset, it's a real asset. My friend and I, this is anecdotal. Sorry, I feel like now I'm doing all the talking. But she was laughing because I buy jewelry and she's like, that's never going to be worth anything. And it's real. And she said, but my Coach bag or Chanel purse has appreciated. It was something like 50 times. So I ran what gold had done since 1950 and what a Chanel purse had done since 1950. And I'm like, don't question me on this, girl.
Who won? I'm sure the gold did.
Gold for sure. I mean, like 100%.
That's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this is not individualized financial advice, guys, but it was just very interesting. But I wonder how you think about teaching women, especially because you said your largest consumer are women who buy jewelry for themselves, which would be me. And sometimes my husband does, and there's like funny stories about that. And I love that. But if you're, how do you do that? If one wanted to create a jewelry collection, what do they need to be thinking about for it to be actually an investment?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I'll say the reason that the wealth edit has resonated with me is because, so this was when we connected and you said, do this, I was like, yeah, sure. Because it was not even, I didn't have to look up anything. And the reason it's actually important to note, though we are in very different industries, the actual sort of mission and motivation is very, very aligned. I would say almost identical, which is basically acknowledging that something is happening and giving more space to it. So women are already getting involved in financials, right? Like they're interested in it. They have to, because if we're looking at it in a very kind of linear, like a longitudinal fashion, the minute women start earning money, going to work, like they start working, they have 401ks and it's there. What you all are doing is that you're making it comfortable. You're making it okay. You're making it accessible for them to do all the things and ask all the questions and think about all the ways that they're doing anyway in their head, but not saying out loud. You're creating a community around that. In my business, jewelry is traditionally something, if you look at all of the tropes, all of the kind of marketing, everything, it's traditionally something that a man gets and buys for a woman. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I like getting gifts from my husband. But again, I think it's the same thing. The more and more women are leaders in society, they have their own opinions and they want to exercise their opinion. So the experience needs to live up to, if they are the ones exercising their opinion, if, you know, the highest percentage of growth in the jewelry industry is with women purchasing for themselves, shouldn't the experience be one that sort of fits them? So that in a way, you guys are doing exactly the same thing that I'm doing. So with that, I'll get off my soapbox on that and answer your actual question, which is how should somebody buy jewelry in a way that actually, I would add something to your question, which is something that they'll wear, and that's an investment. So one of the reasons that Access 79 exists is to help women figure out what we call like a foundational or a capsule jewelry wardrobe. A lot of our clients, they have their Chanel bags and they have their, you know, Louboutin shoes, but the only piece of jewelry they have is their engagement ring because they don't want to go to the jewelry store, they don't want to try things on, etc. But they want jewelry. So my suggestion always is buy things that, don't buy everything and don't buy like hundreds of pieces. Like there's no need for that. I don't want to exist for that personally. Access 79 is not existing for that purpose. However, buy things that you can wear every day, buy things that are gold, solid gold, because gold, just like, I mean, I'm like left brain, right brain. I check those numbers every day, along with, you know, my portfolio. You know, I check the price of gold. Gold is something that no matter what anybody says, including my husband who's into digital currencies, etc., it is still a store of value, and it is a hedge against risk. So I would say try as tempting, if you're looking to get something that you can wear every day, as well as that holds its value and increases its value, try to stay away from the heavy silver things that you may be able to wear every day, because silver doesn't hold its value. Try to stay away from what they call like plated gold, plated, etc. It looks really nice and you can probably wear it every day, but it's not going to hold its value. And sometimes actually, if you want my honest opinion, a lot of it is really, really overpriced. And what I mean by overpriced is it might be a price point that's accessible. However, the value of what you're getting for that price is just not there. And I can tell you that from knowing how much things cost, it's just not worth. Whereas actually, when you buy fine jewelry, I have very, very little control over the gold price. So I can't even overcharge you, you know? So that's the difference. Hence why I have chosen very sort of decidedly, aside from some like promotional kind of things that we are solid gold, you know, 14K or above, 18K. And I suggest that whatever you buy, there's lots of stuff out there. Buy solid gold pieces, buy stuff that you can wear every day, buy stuff that you can pass on to your, you know, if you know you have a daughter, your daughter, if you have a son and you know you have a daughter-in-law, if you like her, you know, pass it on. I've decided that I have to like whoever my son brings. I'm being just a little annoying, but yeah. So that's what I would say. That would be my biggest advice.
I love that because it really, I mean, that foundation, I see people buying like plated jewelry for $150. I'm like, and then that doesn't scratch the itch. And then you buy it again the next year. I'm like, or you could just buy something for $1,200 that you're going to wear for a lifetime. And you can cut out all this like willy-nilly stuff that you buy, you know, I mean, or I don't know what the price point, it depends on what you're buying.
It is $1,200. It's amazing. I was like, were you in my documents? Because that is our like sweet spot. Yes, exactly.
No, I know, because that's, I mean, and I think that that is, when I think about it as an investment, I'm like, that that's rather than buying all this junky stuff or things that look like they're real, but they're not. And you can occasionally do it. Like we were laughing because I took this bracelet on Amazon. It's like a fake tennis bracelet that I got on Amazon for like $20. I'm like, yeah, I take that on vacation, but it's like, they're like, oh, it looks so good. I'm like, it is as fake.
But then
as
we
the
did go into a jeweler and he was like,
it was the first thing he saw. He was like, I'm like, I know it's not real. I just wear it on vacation. But honestly, it's like, that's just kind of junky for a vacation. But most of the time I don't have stuff like that. I just like carefully over time invest in pieces that I would wear forever. And I think also like you may inherit pieces that you don't love. Well, then do something with that. Like that's what the other thing that you're kind of working through.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of scope for refashioning pieces. What I would say is that if you have, and this is my honest opinion, if you have gems and non-gold pieces, it's going to be harder for you to get that value out of it. If it's not so if you have a gem like a sapphire set in silver or something like that, that's a hard one. I would say find a way to refashion it and wear it for fun rather than for an investment, because from the industry standpoint, gems are a little bit, it's not as standardized as even diamonds and certainly gold. So think about that when you're buying things as well. With that said, like my next thing that I'm making for myself are long emerald earrings, and I don't care whether or not they hold their value or not. I just want to look nice and I know what I want. But I do invest in gold jewelry for myself, and because I know it's going to hold its value.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing that. And, and hearing you talk about your jewelry, it is very clear that you also are very savvy with your own personal finances and thinking through like, what is my investment here? I'm also looking at the stock market, kind of balancing all those together. So at the end of all of our calls, we ask all our guests, why did you say yes to the wealth edit? So we had the luxury of having a pre-call with Priyanka and we talked about this, and I just think it's so important. But I'd love for you to share with us and our members, why it has talking about money been so easy for you? Why has that been a part of who you are?
So it's funny, I'm an immigrant. I was born in India. We moved, I think I mentioned that when I was 7 years old. So there is something particular in Indian culture and then even Indian American culture, which is women are the gatekeepers of money in our homes. So I kind of learned this even from my husband. We're both two different kinds of Indians. He's like south of the Indian Mason-Dixon line, and I'm like north of the Indian Mason-Dixon line. That's how I explain it. We don't even speak each other's languages. We met at a nightclub, but so we talked about this, how though growing up, his dad is a physician and his mom stayed at home and took care of the kids. But at the end of the day, all of the bank accounts and all of the money and everything was managed and frankly like rationed and doled out by his mom. She made all those decisions, right? In my family, my parents were both entrepreneurs together. They worked together. Same situation. My mom is the one who knew what was in the bank account, who, when we needed to, if we traveled somewhere, like knew what we could afford when it comes to tickets and everything. When I went to college, like I would, I didn't get a credit card. I got like money put into my account every month. So I would have to ask her like how much I need this money. So she would be the one. And this is cultural. I realized even, way back, my grandmother who is thankfully still alive, my only living grandmother in India, she lost her husband suddenly at a young age. And she was a stay-at-home mom and she had 4 kids, my mom being the oldest, and everybody marvels about how she put all of them through school and grad school and in our culture, as retro as it sounds, married them off nicely, like they all got married to good people and all of that. And how did she do that? It's because even when my grandfather was alive, she was the one who was managing the money. So I grew up kind of seeing this, but then I came to it's like code switching. In American culture, 3 things you don't talk about: religion, money, and politics. In Southern culture, it's even more acute. And certainly men maybe are at their country club or on the trading floor or wherever, and they're talking about their investment portfolios. Women don't do that. Well, in my opinion, nowhere in the country is it very obvious that they do that. But certainly in the South, there is, I love Southern culture. There is, and one of the things I like is the warmth and the friendliness and the sort of uplifting kind of happiness that permeates the culture. But part of that is also sometimes not being very overt and direct about things. And I think that's why I was so like intrigued when I learned about the Wealth Edit years ago, that oh my gosh, Southern women in Alabama saying, speak about money. You know what I mean? Like what I'm listening, and it makes so much sense. And actually, I'm sure you guys know this, and I reviewed some of this data this morning before getting on. Women actually manage money better than men. I mean, all of their performance when it comes to managing money is better than men. And the reason the data or the research shows is that they're less emotional. And I know that sounds weird, but they're less reactive when it comes to sort of volatility in the market, both up and down. So that's kind of ironic given that the sort of reputation of women I mean, it's changing. I think it's changing, but like we are supposed to be emotional. I guess we get our periods and, suddenly sell all our stocks. That's just not true. Actually, if anyone does that, it's men. Bless their heart.
It's so true, and they don't even have an excuse. Why did they do that?
So in that sense, it makes a lot of sense to me, how I grew up. What didn't make sense to me was like how I didn't talk about it. And then, but then now when I see you guys doing this, I know at least at first I was like, why are they doing this? But then I saw the main reason, which is to make it comfortable. I suspect women are thinking about this. They are pondering this. They're just keeping it inward and not talking about it. So once we get folks to talk about it, then we can get them to make great financial decisions. My father-in-law, actually, I forgot to tell you this on our call. I realized that my father-in-law made me make a whole spreadsheet of everything is in his name, any asset, anything. And he keeps sending me, anytime there's an update, he sends it to me. Anytime he wants to invest in something, he asks me, so, like my husband doesn't even know all of it, you know what I mean? So I mean, I think my culture has kind of understood this.
That is amazing. I mean, it just makes me so happy because that is exactly why when we were on our call with you yesterday, I'm like, she just gets it. And I think that's what happens the more the messaging and mission of the Wealth Edit gets out there is people are like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about this and I don't have anyone to talk to about it. Or, it just helps, like women learn best from one another. Like there's stats about that. And that's kind of why we're here. So we are so happy that you shared your story with us. Please follow Access 79 or get on their email list because there's a lot of things coming soon. And actually, when we were designing the Wealth Edit website, our web people were like, give us 3 websites. I'm like, there are not 3, there's 1. I just love the way that Access 79 like approaches the world. And so I just feel like we're kindred spirits in that way. And I can't wait to watch Access 79 grow. And anyway, I'm just grateful to know you. And I know.
Hey, look me up when you guys are in Jacksonville and I'll do the same.
Yes.
And I'm going to figure out a way to send you some jewelry so you can try our box and do it at
awesome.
11:30 p.m. braless, watching TV with wine, whatever. Okay.
That would be so fun.
Yes, we'll figure it out. I'll send an email about that. But this is great. This is so fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priyanka.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Have a good day.
Bye.